Beatrice, are you there?
Yes, I'm here and I'm ready to go.
Awesome, awesome. I'm just going to spotlight you. Yeah, so welcome everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. We are going to start, and whoever is not on at the moment will collect us on the way. If you do want to find a recording of anything with regards to these sessions, you can find the recordings on the Business Engage YouTube channel. We're not going to ask questions in between. The speakers are going to go through their 7 to 10 minutes on the biggest impacts that they've taken in their careers, and then we will hold a Q&A at the end. So Beatrice, over to you. If you can just let people know who you are. And Yaku, I see your hand.
All right, I can take it away. You can hear me?
Awesome, we can do. Thanks so much. Hey.
All right, you can see my presentation?
Yes, we can do.
All right, a very good afternoon to each and every one of you. My name is Beatrice, and I'm going to take you through my journey of influence to impact. So I have a story for you. The year is 1975, and my father is on his deathbed. He's very sick, and he had married young, so he has a very young family. He already has 4 children, and my mother is below the age of 30. And in his sick bed, he makes a prayer to God and says, if you save me, I'm going to make impact on this earth. And who is God? God heals him. And he decides to do something from the village where he came from, and he went back to become a missionary. A year later, in 1976, Beatrice Wanjiko Kiruri, who is me, I'm born, and I'm born to missionary parents that are preaching in a small village in the central part of Kenya. Now, they would take me along because I was born and they were already in the field. They would take me along. One thing I forgot to tell you is that I was born in the city. My parents were business people, so we were privileged. But over the weekend when we went to the village, I would see the poverty that existed there. A lot of the women did not have the privileges that I had of going to school, of wearing shoes. So every weekend I'd have a conflict of mind where I'd go back to the village as they ministered there. And then on Monday, I'd come back to the city. And that had a lot of impact into the career choice that I took later. So there are my parents, and that is me. That's my dad. He's late now, and that is my mom, and I'm in the middle. So they would take me as a young child and would go ministering, would go talking to people, would go preaching in the local church, and I'd see the conflict and I'd experience the poverty. And I realized that poverty really impacts women. It's the women that would suffer, because if there is no water, then it's the women who would go to fetch the water. If there is no food, it's the women who worked in the farms. And the biggest impact happened in 1988. As I was growing up and going to the local Sunday school, I had a friend called Jane. And she was my good friend. She was very good, equally competent in school, and would play together. And sometimes she'd come to visit me in the city. But one time when we went back to the village over the weekend, I heard the women whispering. And I realized that she had become pregnant. Unfortunately, she was only at the age of 12. Now, this is what happened. Now that Jane had become pregnant, a lot of blame was put on her. She dropped out of school. And when I went to ask the mother where Jane had gone, she told me she got married off to an old man. That was a shock to me. A girl of 12 years had gotten married to an old man, and her life had almost come to an end. I asked why wouldn't she have given birth and then gone back to school? But that was unheard of. And that stood with me for a long time. And when I went to the university later, and I was able to stand on myself by myself, I came back to my village and started women empowerment sessions in the local church. I would gather a few women and we would have a session. I'd talk to them about investment. I'd talk to them about the small businesses that be able to run. I'd talk about hygiene and small topics which would impact the women. And so back at work, where I worked in the city, of course, after I've had a very good weekend, I'd come and tell people how it worked for me. I'd talk about it because I was very, very excited about it. And my boss noticed this, and he told me, why don't you make this a career? You're already working in HR. Why don't you do this also for the company that you're working for? The company was Bamburi Cement. where I was working already as the HR manager. And he told me if you could combine that with what we call diversity, equity, and inclusion, that would work very well for you. What was the job at hand? He told me what you need to do is look the same way you are doing in the village, looking at empowering women. Why don't you bring that to the workplace? I didn't know how to do it, and I began my journey. I thought it was easy, actually. I said, oh, you just want the number of women increased in the company. As a HR manager, I think I could do that. I think it's just recruitment and proceed. But after 2 years of doing everything I could, talking, making sure we had women empowerment sessions, I realized that I was not making traction and I needed partnership. And so I went out and reached out to UN Women, because I realized that partnerships are very important and I had a skill gap. And so I reached to UN Global Compact, which is our local chapter here in Kenya, and I got the organization to sign up to the Women Empowerment Principles. So the local organization, which is a construction cement manufacturing company known as Bamburi Cement, we signed up to the Women Empowerment Principles. And this was well covered by the media. And the good thing is, not only did we sign at the local company, but the company which we were part of then, which is Lafarge Holcim, saw what had happened locally here in Kenya, and they signed up across the world that they would be able to work together and they would align to the women empowerment principles, which required us to make changes in the workplace, in the marketplace, and in the community. I underwent training and we put together a dashboard that would track the changes that would happen at the workplace. Part of it was making sure that the environment in this construction industry was accommodative for women, youth, and persons with disability. We put together a dashboard that would track the metrics, looking at the workforce composition, how many men, how many women, and setting up KPIs to make sure that work was being done. The most important thing I learned, what you needed to measure and report at the highest level. So these dashboards were not only at the local HR meetings, but they were reported up to the board level. And so I started getting support from the leadership, which was very, very good, because that meant I was able to get the budget and a discussion was taking place and issues concerning women were being addressed at a company level. So we made sure that the training and promotion of women was happening. They were going through, we were identifying the competency gaps. We were measuring how many women were being promoted, how many women were being trained. We created environment with breastfeeding rooms across the organization. We looked at their protective, because we are a manufacturing organization. Women do put on the protective gear. We looked at the design and made sure that the environment was very, very accommodative of the women. One of the programs that I'm very, very proud of that we've been working on, and it continues to happen, is we had to look at how is the company spending money, because where your heart is where your money is, where your heart is. And so we looked at Bamburi Cement spend, and we put together a program working with Sourcing to Equal, which was a project of inviting women to come, putting a certain allocation to tendering and making sure that women vendors were being trained on how to work with the company and how to supply. It was a challenge because some of the products that we required, for example, engineering services, the raw materials for manufacturing cement, women were not playing in that area, or even in logistics, they were not in that area. But we have made a stride, and we're having up to 15% of our spend going to women-owned businesses, which we are very, very proud of. And we have a target of having 30% of the spend going to women-owned businesses. And we have been recognized in the area. Another project that we put together that has been impactful in my community was what we call Women on Wheels. Women driving the big trucks that carry, that are involved in construction or even carrying cement products across the country. The Women on Wheels program has enrolled quite a few women, training them on how to drive these trucks. And we advertise, and so far, as of today in the morning, we were graduating the 6th cohort, and so far we've trained 61 women, and they're involved in transporting raw material, which has been a culture change across the company and across the country, which is something that we are very, very proud of, as people can see that women can also be involved in construction and in driving heavy trucks. So yes, we've been recognized. And part of what we were very, very happy of is that in 2023, Bamburi Cement was given the runners-up award for the most inclusive listed company, first runners-up of the most inclusive listed company. As an individual, last year was a good year for me. I won 2 awards, being the finalist in the Inclusive Leader Award, among the finalists in the Inclusive Leader Award in 2024 at the Africa and Middle East Gender Mainstreaming Award. There's the picture. And I was the award winner in what we call the D Award for the C-suite executive at the National Diversity Inclusion Award. That is hosted by Daima Trust. So last year was a good year, and this year I'm hoping that it's going to be better. I have spoken in many platforms about inclusion. I have assisted companies in making sure that they have inclusive policies, that they are making sure that the environment around them is inclusive of women, especially in the manufacturing sector. So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Beatrice Kiruri. I'm a HR manager, an inclusive leader that believes that you not only have to bring people to the table, you have to ensure that their voice is being heard on the table, and that our work environments need to be representative of the communities that we work in and the customers that we serve. So thank you very much. Over to you, Colin.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Beatrice, and so amazing the work that you've been doing. It's been an absolute honor to work with you for the last couple of years. Augusta, are you online?
I am indeed, Carl.
Awesome. I'm just going to spotlight you quickly. Just let me get back to you. Oh, there we go. I see you. When you've got so many people on the line, you you can't find who where the person is. Let me just spotlight you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, spotlight. And then we take Beatrice off. Stop spotlighting. Awesome. Over to you, Augusta. Thanks so much. Hey?
Thank you, Carl. And thank you to everyone who's on this amazing conversation with us today. I truly feel so honored to be with you all. The title of today's event, From Influence to Impact, could not be more fitting of where leadership should be focused on our continent, and particularly in healthcare. As you all know, I'm a healthcare executive by trade, and I now run my own incredible consultancy, and I'm very proud to have some of my colleagues on the call with us today. But with the prevalence of social media in our personal and professional lives, it is far easier to influence today than it was 40 years ago when I started my professional journey. 40 years ago, influence was truly personal. The way in which you communicated with others and absorbed information in the moment either created an impact or it didn't. The news in newspapers was always 12 hours old, as news that remained in actual circulation was only printed. Yeah, I grew up before there was TV in homes. The Sunday Times, the Times Literary Supplement, and the Pretoria News were my sources of information. There were so few radio stations, and the BBC World Service served as our only link to the outside world. Can you imagine? Today, however, communication is even more critical than it was then because impact is created immediately. My own journey with communication started at the age of 2 when I was able, under the guidance and tutelage of my parents, to speak the King's English. And for all of us who live in former English colonies, you'll know exactly what I mean. My father was a lifelong scholar of languages, and he insisted that every single language be spoken properly. Even at that young age, I recognized the power of a spoken word. It could build or it could break. Already at that age, as the daughter of an activist, I learned that words could build bridges, especially if used with real love. I was also curious. My father saw this and encouraged robust debate on most subjects so as to develop my aptitude for difficult and courageous conversations, and boy, would I need them later on. Being able to articulate clearly, though, the result of being read many bedtime stories every evening. At age 3, I began to explore the written word, and the first book that I read was about the treasures of Tutankhamun, the great Egyptian king. My love for history and the impact of human activity on history was born. My favorite activity when traveling is talking with taxi drivers. Immediately on leaving an airport, I'll ask, so what's happening in this country? And I've traveled to 103 countries, so the insights have been fascinating. Immediately on arriving in any place, I also ask to visit the busiest hospital. And by doing that, I know immediately what service is being offered to the community at its time of greatest vulnerability. And that is soul food for me. So communication is so personal. The way you communicate with yourself can also make or break you. The inner narrative can hold you back or inspire you forward. Your inner narrative can determine your future. Growing up in the 60s and 70s, mental health was never spoken about. Self-esteem was never taught or even mentioned. Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Indira Gandhi, and Margaret Thatcher were the only female leaders any of us had even heard about. Can you imagine? Women leading business was unheard of. Sexual harassment and misogyny were commonplace, and you decided at a very early age where you stood and fell on these matters. Imagine things that are very much in the public space now. Being passionate about healthcare from the age of 13, I found myself on vacation work experience assisting and observing post-mortems, all performed by men. To be accepted into any healthcare profession was the exception unless you wanted to be a nurse. I learned at that age that providing grieving relatives with closure is never underrated. Those experiences at the age of 13 shaped the way I engaged with patients forever. To be able to communicate with people at their most vulnerable is a very precious gift. Each opportunity provides a unique set of circumstances where the impact can be immeasurable, never to be taken for granted, ever. Over my 41 years in healthcare, I've had thousands of difficult and courageous conversations. Working in highly emotive environments provides for a leader to influence with impact. Every life is precious, whether it is the life of a member of staff, the life of a patient, or the life of a doctor. Healthcare is 100% human, and you own that. Having worked in the public, NGO, and private healthcare sectors has brought me great opportunity for growth, both personally and professionally. I've served patients with nothing who were fully compliant on their toxic HIV medication, and I've served patients who were millionaires but whose money could not buy their loved ones one more breath. You know, when I sit in silence, I'm comforted by the thousands of stories over this time that inform my thoughts. How leading with impact and never giving up saved lives and gave people hope. And I'm sure you know how powerful the word no is in healthcare. Well, I have never used it, and I'm really, really proud of that. And I'll give you a few examples. No, all our beds are full, but don't worry, we're going to make a plan for you. We'll get you to a bed soon. Never turning away anybody in any sector ever. No, we don't allow dogs into the hospital, but your mom is really unwell, and we will definitely let you bring her Maltese poodle in every day to visit her. No, to the policeman who was missing his horse after strategic surgery to his back, and he still had 3 weeks to stay in hospital. No, but if you come with me on this wheelchair, you will see your horse in the parking lot. I've arranged it. No, we don't admit people without funding and medical aid, but you are an emergency and we will definitely treat you. I still see their faces and I'm grateful that my teams made an impact and influenced lives. 40, 30, and 20 years ago, the personal touch and kind words spoken in person made all the difference because that is what we did. And nothing has changed. In every type of communication that you use, I just want to appeal to you to be sure and know that you are influencing to make an impact. Be aware of what you say and how you say it. Each one of us is a role model. You may think that you influence no one, but rest assured, when you leave to start your day, there are people watching and looking up to you. There are people hanging on your every word, striving to be just like you. And I'd like to dedicate these words to my late mom, Minnie Stokes Waller, whose 95th birthday, it would have been tomorrow. She was 92 when she passed, and she will never be forgotten. She remains my eternal role model. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
I'm Augusta. Sending biggest hugs, hey. Elizabeth, are you there? Hi,
Yes, I
Elizabeth.
am.
So
Hi.
amazing to be chatting. We haven't chatted for a while.
Very, very true. Very true. And I was just caught up in the emotion of thinking about our mothers and how important they were based on what Dr. Augusta was speaking about. So really nice to see her being honored in this conversation as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Elizabeth. Well, thank you so much for making time to be with us, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Carmen. And to be honest, I think a lot has been spoken about. Lovely to see you ladies in this conversation. Wonderful to have heard Beatrice speaking. I know we met a couple of months ago in a different conversation. I hope you can remember in Naivasha. And just acknowledging the various people in this call. Excited to be able to just share from the heart what I think about in terms of influence to impact. As I listened to Dr. Augusta and just speaking about, the many years that we've spent to get to where we are. And then picking on the fact that, influence, despite the fact that we have social media and the various things that we see in social media, the followings and the excitement around being followed. I mean, those are some concepts that were very foreign to people who were perhaps 20 years, 20 years ago. So for me, just thinking about the act of influence, and it's a key piece of women and I think business in general, just to be able to know that from an influence perspective, there are a couple of things that must be true. And for me, have held true. Yes, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but there are things that I have to work on consistently. One of them being personal credibility. There's very little you can do, in terms of influence if personal credibility isn't in place. And that's the thing that, we have to always safeguard and drive and empower ourselves as we move forward in our lives and in our careers. The second part for me is the relationship capital, something that women have good grasp over, but somehow we have a good grasp of it around our social piece. But when it comes to the work piece, we struggle a lot in terms of being able to have a wide, diverse, and really edifying social capital buildup. And this I say because, from a business perspective, especially being in a male dominated field, traditionally, it was that, for me, the kind of influence I had to have or people I had to have around me were mainly male, and making sure that they could understand where I am, how do I influence them, and how do they influence me, were really important. And so for me, just being able to say that from an influence perspective, it's really important to make sure we build the right relationship capital across to support us. And then the third thing in that influence space is really around our thought leadership. Again, an area for women. We are good at thought leadership on a different scale from a home perspective, but from a business perspective, now it's getting better in terms of us being able to stand in front of people and share our thoughts and our leadership concepts. What has taken us, what has been our journey, being able to share openly and honestly about the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that other people don't get an opportunity to learn from us, and then also be able to really step forward, because I think we all stand on shoulders of other women who gave us an opportunities to stand to where we are. I think that moving from influence and into impact, and this is something. There's a quote I read, and that it says, "Impact is when influence translates into opportunities, policies, resources that change the trajectory of women's business and, by extension, her community." I thought that was really profound, because there's no point in having influence if you really don't use it to impact somebody or others in your community. So I challenge women every day, that the fact that we are big on the spaces that we are in, we must make sure we're putting ourselves at the table to influence and translate opportunities for others, to be able to uplift others in our community in every small way. It doesn't mean that, we're talking about 1,000. We're just talking about the 10 women or the 10 businesses are around you, because God knows we do have sons as well. So it's not just to speak to women alone, but it's just making sure that we know that we it's an expectation that as you have influence, then impact must follow. And so in that impact conversation is really to say, if you have an opportunity to impact access to capital, access to, and opening doors for others, in whatever spaces you are in, policy change, cultural change, because we do know that our worlds are not perfect, but we must take a stand to make sure that we have impacts. So influence to impact for me is big, and especially when I put this theme into a woman conversation, then it is really extrapolated, because we do know there's a lot of work that is still expected of us to support the women and in businesses and in the environment that they are in. So, in my day job, yes, I do work at Absa Bank as a business banking director. So that really takes care of business. But then also from a social perspective, how do I influence? How do I coach? How do I mentor women, especially growing into leadership, making sure that they have the skills, they have the understanding, they have the strength, and they have what we call these days the bandwidth to be able to manage, the tough scenarios that they are in today. So I think from a personal perspective, rather, it is something that we work on every day. And I actually last year went back into coaching, just to be able to edify myself, because it's one thing to be in a leader and experienced environment, but it's another thing to then say, I want to really learn how can I mentor and coach, from a very strategic perspective, to make sure that my impact is really up top notch, so to speak. So happy to report today that over and above what I do during the day, and that is a heavy conversation as it is, on a personal level, just making sure that we consistently edify ourselves. And I do share with different forms the fact that on this journey of being able to learn and learn, relearn constantly, to be able to perfect my areas of influence and therefore my areas of impact. So ladies and gentlemen, I'll stop there, because I could go on and on and on around the conversation. But just to say, to echo Dr. Augusta's conversation today, is a conversation that I also, stand on the shoulders of my parents. Today is their wedding anniversary. They both passed in the last 5 years, but just so excited to be here, because, we do stand on very big shoulders, and hoping that women across the room also can share some of those things proactively. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Elizabeth. I just saw in the chat, they've asked that you please repeat your quote.
Oh, great. So the quote is, impact is when influence translates into opportunities, policies, and resources that change the trajectory of women businesses and, by extension, her community.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Elizabeth. Okay. They asked if you wouldn't mind putting it into the chat. It's a little bit long, but as the next speaker speaks. Thanks so much, Elizabeth. Florence, are you there?
Absolutely, I'm here.
Awesome. So wonderful to be speaking to you all the way from Nigeria.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Florence, over to you.
Thank you. Hello, I'm super excited to be here, and I hope you all are fine, depending in any location that you are. So my name is Florence Ekong, all the way from Nigeria, and I am deeply honored to be here as a finalist in the positive role model category. I am a nurse. I am a certified holistic health and wellness coach from US and an energy healer, a mental health and wellness advocate, and also the founder of Pain East, which is the grassroots initiative focused on menstrual health and education in undeserved communities. So my journey began anyways, I would say that my journey has been nothing but conventional. I did not arrive in where I am today with team. I did not have parents cheering me up or financial support me to lead me on. And with all I did is through the help of our Creator, Jehovah, who helped me. And with the strength I built with myself, brick by brick and breath by breath. So if you are hearing my voice, this moment, please, I believe that my story would either inspire you personally or also inspire someone which you would love to also share with. My boldness the boldest decision that I made or I ever made was choosing to build a life of impact alone. What I mean alone by I had no one, no safety net, no sponsors, just me. I choose to pursue my certification in a holistic health from the Legacy Holistic Health Institute in US, even when it felt impossible. I lost my parents at the early stage, and it wasn't easy. So after I lost my parents, before then, in my community, people were being neglected when you hear the word sick, someone said, I am sick, they would either to take this person to the hospital, they will say, oh, that person is being bewitched. I could also remember a time that a lady was sick and she was being rushed to a pharmacy. And in that store, the pharmacist who claimed to be a doctor said that they would not be able to give her infusion simply because it was raining. So that deal, I was like, is it really true that when someone is sick and it's raining, they cannot give someone infusion? That zeal in me compelled with me that, no, I want to be in the field, either a medical personnel, so that I would help people. After the death of my parents, I was being pushed to stay with my aunt. And my aunt, instead of her to take me in as her own, she was either rather abusing me, especially when it was time for my menstruation. I started menstruating early, at the early stage. I could remember throughout my menstruation and staying with my aunt, she did not buy me anything called sanitary products. So with that zeal in me, lost my parents, my aunt took me in, started menstruating, no sanitary pad. She abused me, calling me names, even said that I was pregnant, even at that early stage. I remember sitting in my room, overwhelmed by the wages of responsibilities. I had no one to call, no hope, no help, no father, no mother, no relatives, but I had a vision to become a medical health personnel. Then I started my journey. I became a nurse. I had diploma in nursing, and that was not where I wanted to stop. I still further by becoming a certified holistic health and wellness coach. Even though it seems that I would not, or I was not able to pay for my institution, but with my persistence, I was able to do that. And yes, my vision became a fail to me. And today, because of the step that I took, I help people identify and navigate their emotional pain, depression, stress, and mental health challenges. And also helping women and girl children in slum community, sharing sanitary products, and also letting the girls to know that menstruation is their honor, but never a shame. I also work with individuals who feel stuck, broken, or invisible, and I guide them back to themselves. Yes, I have coached individuals, I have coached clients across continents. I have worked with neurodiversity children and young adults, collaborating with UK-based speech therapists to support literacy, emotional regulations, and communication. I have led menstrual health outreach in slums, distributing sanitary products and teaching girls that their bodies are sacred, not shameful. And yes, through my resilience, consistent with the help of the pain ease, I have reached communities that are often forgotten. And through my coaching, I have helped people rediscover their rhythm, their confidence, their self-esteem, and their joy. Yes, I have done all this while continuing my BSc in nursing, also balancing clinical knowledge with holistic healing. And yes, I have been recognized twice as a positive role model in Gender Mainstreaming African Award in 2023 and also 2024. But I want you to know that the real reward is not the awards. It is the quiet messages from clients who say to me, Florence, you helped me breathe again. Do not underrate the power of social media. And wherever you are, you keep doing your best. Don't think that people are not watching you, because they are watching. I have not gotten to my destination yet. I am still climbing. I haven't reached the top. But every step I have taken has been mine and mine. And that's what boldness looks like. It is not flashy. It is faithful. It is choosing purpose over pity. It is showing up even when no one is clapping. Being a positive role model doesn't mean being perfect. It means being present. It means choosing impact over comfort. It means believing that your story, no matter how messy or unfinished it is worthy of being told. So, my darling, wherever you are, if you are waiting for perfect conditions, do not. If you are wondering if your story matters, my darling, it does. And if you are climbing alone, don't give up. Keep going. Because one day, your journey will light the path for someone else. Now, I invite you, wherever you are, in your sitting position, wherever you are, I want you to repeat this silently or loudly to yourself. Say this to yourself. I am worthy of healing. I am capable of impact. I am not alone. If others have done it, I will do it to the success. If my story resonates with you, if you are ready to reclaim your reading, your joy, and your wellness, I'm here. Let's walk that journey together, because healing is not just a solo act, it is a shared revolution. Thank you, wherever you are, and I'm super excited that we're going to meet here.
Florence, that was just powerful. And I'm going to say it again, I say it in every single session we host. When people think things aren't happening on the African continent, they must think again, because we are uncovering the most phenomenal stories. And I really appreciate the day that you reached out and said, Cole, I'm here. So thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I think Nigeria is super, super lucky and blessed to have you. So thank you so much. Hey, please stay on the line. I'm sure there's going to be questions for you. Okay. Thank you. Mashudu, are you online, Mashudu? I know I did see you.
I'm here.
Okay, let me just find you. Hold on a minute. Ah, there we go. All right, let me just spotlight you.
Can you hear me?
Well, I can hear you, and I'm just going to spotlight you. There we go. Mashudu, last but not least, over to you and all the impact that you're creating.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow, what a lovely stories, which our colleagues just shared now. And it just make me to realize the importance of my late parents, actually, specifically my mother, why she actually had to take care of the orphans, why she actually had to take care of the mentally disturbed people, why she actually had to take care of the vulnerable mothers and women. It is because of the stories which we just heard today. I'm inspired and amazed, and I'm so proud by myself. I'm very proud of my mother, because what I just heard today is actually what my mother will actually take care of while she was still alive. So this is an amazing story. My name is Mashudundo, and I'm going to share a story from, I call it from a secretary to executive, because the theme for today is the bold moves or bold action that changes the game as leaders. So this is the story of the young woman who actually grew up in the rural areas, studied under the trees even during the rainy seasons, and to actually climbing the corporate ladder into one of the group executive in one of the taco company. And I want to ask a question to each one of us, and that's gonna be my storyline to say, what if the role you are in today is not where you're meant to be? What if the role you're in today is not where you're meant to stay, but the launch pad to somewhere extraordinary? And that's exactly what happened to me. This today is just want to share that through this journey, as a woman, I was able to prove that taking a bold move or bold action can turn an unlikely starting point into an exceptional destination. And that's what happened with me, from the secretary to government, and now to leading one of the great company, the big company in the world. That's a telco company. And I must say, colleagues, along the way, I broke ceilings, I bridged sectors, and I stood on global stage where few African women had stood before. And while I'm standing there, and I'll be like, this is the girl who studied under the tree. This is the girl who will go to school with not having full uniform. And this is where she is today. And I must say that my story didn't begin from the corporate boardrooms. It started from home, as I said, how I was taught to be and know the understanding of Ubuntu. And I just want to share a story, Colleen, just what happened today. While I was busy preparing for myself, my helper, which I've been with her for years, she came into my study room crying. And I asked her, why are you crying? She said to me, her daughter just told her, the daughter which we supported for her to study, myself and my husband, she said she's just being told now that she need to graduate now. What came to my mind immediately, it was the journey that young girl have to take. It's from the village, like really rural village. She had to take for her to study for the full 3 years. And today she's going to miss an opportunity to go to graduate because she was told late. There's no money for her to go and buy the outfit. There's no money for her to go and buy even the regalia for the gowns. What I did with the impact and influence which we have, it worked for me today. I had to connect the dots of who are the people I can be able to get today to allow her just to have a moment of graduating. And I must say, as we are speaking right now, within 20 minutes, I was able to get the girl to go to the venue. I was able to get to the people to be able to get the regalia. As we speak right now, probably she's on her way to the stage. And I'm here, I'm having goosebumps because she even got a cum laude. This is the girl who studied from the rural area where they don't even have classrooms. And today her future is going to change because she believed in herself. And this is what, for me, it means when you say we are taking a bold move. We are not taking a bold move for ourselves, but taking a bold move in making impact and difference in the people which are surrounding us. As I said, I started in a modest administrative role, taking minutes, scheduling meetings, and typing errors. But then I must say that that's where it started for me. For me, it was I need to make a difference. I didn't treat my job as a job description. I didn't treat my job description as a cage. I treated it as a front row seat to leadership and a better and inclusive leadership. And that is why we are able to make an impact and be able to influence to make sure that we can have better communities. And with the example which I just made today, I watched how decisions are made. I listened to the way leaders are spoke in the meetings, and I noticed which voices carry the weight. And I must say today again, that voices helped me to be able to get that young girl to get into the room where she can graduate. And slowly, as I said, I started putting my hands for the task outside my lane. And that for me, it was saying again that it doesn't have to be in my job description. It doesn't have to be in my within my pay grade, but it was in my vision to make sure that I can be able to learn more. I can be able to volunteer myself. And then for me, the lesson there was to say, start where you are, but don't stay there. Start where you are, but don't stay there. And that for me, I believe that your job description, wherever you are, is the starting line, not the finishing line. And as I said, I started as secretary, and here I am today. I am actually a group executive because I believe to say that what I have at the beginning is just a landing pad for me. And I do have a better future. It doesn't matter where I have started. It doesn't matter whether I started in the classroom. It doesn't matter in under the trees, or actually I was a secretary where I have to make teas and everything. I must say through that, I also learned the master of stakeholder engagement. This is very important because mostly as women, we shy away from engaging and really coming up front to engage and create influence through our connections. Again, with the example which happened today, I must say that I was able to utilize the stakeholder network which I have within my network, and I say, can you be able to support this young woman? I've learned quickly that leadership isn't about telling people what to do. It's about getting people to what to do it with you. And I must say, Colin, you remember that last year I'm the finalist for the inclusive leadership, the positive role model. But because I always allow people to do things with me, I don't tell them what to do. I was actually the winner or one of the winner for the People's Choice. That showcase to say when someone have to do and work with the stakeholders being everyone, it's not only your community, but even the people you deal with every day. It means that you need to learn how to listen deeply, navigate conflict without burning bridges, and align widely our interest towards a shared goal. And those are some of the things which I've learned as part of my stakeholder engagement. Those skills, I must say, they've made me even today to be indispensable. One of the things which I've also learned through the journey as we're taking bold actions, it's really to be able to move cross industry boundaries. And I must say that most of us as executives, as leaders, we want to remain in the same industry for years because we are afraid to say if we move, then we're gonna arrive in an area where we feel that we are an entity. I must say that I took a bold move. I didn't just climb one corporate ladder, I jumped to entirely different ones. And that's what I've been doing throughout my journey. I moved from government to mining and energy, and now I'm actually a telco, a totally new environment. Each time I entered an unfamiliar world, no insiders, no advantage, no safety net, but I carried with me the transferable skills, which is the leadership, which is the community engagement, which is the stakeholder management, and really know to how you work with people and then how you deal with the different people because the principle is the same. You just have to make sure that you up your game. And I must say that I didn't just climb the ladder. Sometimes I have to move to a different buildings to find the right one. And that's what I did. And I'm still doing that. And that's bold, as I said. That's risky. And that's why we grew up faster as leaders. And I'm saying that as women, I'm challenging each one of us to say, I think at some point we really need to learn to say we don't just climb the ladder, but we do sometimes jump and move into different buildings so that we can get what we want and really start to create a better impact as we are ought to be. And I must say the last one for me, it's just really looking at really building influence out of my job. I love this one because it's very important, and that is why I'm in this platform because I really started to create networks outside of the work which that I do. And many people keep their influence tied to their business card. I don't, and I will never do that. I must say that I have founded some of the women in leadership programs in the different space within the companies I've worked for. But what I did importantly, I also make sure that I serve freely. I give back to the communities where I serve in different boards, different trustee, without being paid, just to make sure that I can be able to make an influence, I can be able to make a difference. And that's for me, they're not just a side project. They are impact platform which we must make sure that as women we can filter into them and start making difference. And by building those influence outside my employer, I created a leadership identity that could stand in its own. And that is the reason why I'm here. And for me, I also believe that your leadership brand must be bigger than your business card. Your leadership brand must be bigger than your business card because your business card will change all the time, but your leadership brand will never change. And I must say that as I lead now one of the biggest company in actually in globally and mostly in Africa from the tour company, I also believe that this is not small feat. Many companies keep doing good, and then I'm making sure that as I lead the ESG, the philanthropy, the foundation job, I'm actually making sure that it can be part of the core business. And I think I heard some of the colleagues, the ladies here, saying that this is actually what they're doing within the business. And I think we're all doing that. How do we start coming collectively and make sure that our impact and the efforts that we do, it's actually creating more impact because we are doing it now at a bigger scales. And I must say that that will help us to drive not only the purpose and the profit, but can strengthen each other and ensure that we can transform our communities, we can transform our continent, because that's the main reason that we are here. I just want to quickly, in closing for me, I want to say when I look at the journey and at my journey, I see courage, not in the absence of fear, but moving forward while fear is still in the room. That's what I did. I took roles which I wasn't ready for. I did that. And I said yes. I stepped into industries where I had no prior experience at all. I spoke on stages global stages where I stood out in a very possible way. And I never said no. I never said no. Every time I would say yes because I believe that saying yes, it gives me an opportunity. And by doing that and taking this bold action, I must say that it expands the capacity and the credibility which I have as a woman leader. And I must say that in closing, I just want to say my career blueprint is as follows. Start where you are. Take on more than you are paid for. Move across industries, on public platforms. Lead outside your job and align passion with strategy. Now, I want to really think about your own career as we are sitting here to say which one of those bold moves we are committing to take in the next days. Because bold careers aren't built in a day, they are built in courageous decision at a time. And I can say that our career is not a ladder, it's a canvas. You can choose to paint it in a safe, predictable shades, or you can take the brush in your hand and add colors no one expects. That's what I did. And I continue to make sure that I'm going to continue painting my career with the brush and the colors, the pink, the purple, the lavender, the red, the yellow, which no one actually expect that you can actually, because most of the time they always think that it must either be black or gray or it must be white. I'm planning and I'm willing to say that I want to continue painting my career with all colors that no one expects because I am bold. I am bold. It doesn't matter where I'm coming from. I am a bold woman. Thank you very much.
That is awesome, Mashudu. And once again, the power of these stories across Africa. And I can attest to you not saying no on anything that we have asked you to over the last time since we've known each other. So well done on growing your career into something that is really inspiring to watch. So you've also had a question in the chat to say, please make a note of all of your powerful phrases. They want to pick up on those phrases. So now we've come to the time. We've got most of the speakers still online. And is there anybody that would like to ask any of the speakers any questions? Take time to learn as much as you can from them. Anybody that's online? So I think Augusta's online. Florence is still online. Elizabeth had to drop off, but Beatrice is still online. Any questions? I think everybody's just inspired. Okay, so Alberto says, Mashudu, what has motivated you the most?
It has been for me the power of knowing that it is possible. And I'm gonna share a bit of a story in responding to this. Colin, last week I drove back home. My home is still very rural, and I took a journey to just go to the school itself. And when I was at school, then I realized to say this is where our dreams actually started. It doesn't matter where you are from. And for me, really seeing parents who are able to and who are able to take their children to the to the model schools. I'm one of those who my parents couldn't afford to be able to go to take me to the model schools. And I remember very well when my mother said to me, I don't have money to take you to the high school, model school, but I will try to have money for you to study the university. And that's for me, that's motivated me to say, my mother, she's willing to make me to have to make sure that I can have a better education, but that there's things which she's willing to sacrifice. And I must also be able to sacrifice and say, okay, I cannot go to the better high school, but I will be able to go to the better university. So when I was in that high school, starting from grade 6, what now you call it grade 8, I had a dream to say, my mother said to me, I'm going to go to the better university. It doesn't matter where I'm starting now. And then when I was in better university, there was a lecturer, Colin, who said to me, you're never going to make it because I was not good in English because I studied in rural area. And guess what? I studied so hard to make sure that I made it. But then what is more important for me, I was thinking about it. I actually leading the communication team in one of the main global company in the world. Starting from where someone said, you will not be able to do it because you can't speak proper English. I mean, I can't because I studied under the tree. To really be influenced because of what someone has said and say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make sure that I pass. And for me, it was even more than passing. Just now going to say, I'm going to lead, in which I did. One of the communication department, both internal and external, in one of the biggest oil company in the world. So for me, that's a motivator to say sometimes people would say to you no. And when they say to you no, you need to look back and say, why are they saying no? If it does not make sense, prove them correct wrong to say it's actually doable and you can do it.
That's awesome, Mashudu. And this is a question for all of the speakers. How have you all dealt with cultural and society biases that sometimes form barriers for women to thrive?
Maybe if I can start, Colleen, I was in an industry where apart from racial, you also have a gender bias issue because it had a lot of men, a lot of engineers, and then here you are, you're a black woman, and then who was not even an engineer and was not even an accountant for that matter. So how I've done it for me, it was really knowing your story. And that's what I've learned. It doesn't matter what other people think. If you know your story and you can prove them that you know your story, then they start to respect you. And that is the journey which I had to take to say, I'm not going to take things emotional, but I'm going to make sure all the time that I can actually showcase the work which I know and my worth in the company. And that's what I did. Thank you.
Thanks, Mashudu. Augusta, I see your hand.
So that's a really great question because it's a reality and we can never pretend that it isn't one. What I've always done from the time that I started studying, in fact, was if I didn't know something, I made it my business to be the best version of that topic that I could be. I took that particular circumstance into the working world. I always worked in male-dominated environments, and I just did double the work. And in South Africa, for me, everything changed in 1994 because women became seen. And then things became a lot easier, and you were truly judged on your merits. But for those first 10 years of my career, it was really a case of just make sure you know about everything. So the intellectual capacity was pushed to a limit. I'm not sorry I did it. I read extensively because, of course, we didn't have the internet in those days. Can you believe it? But books were my friend, and wise counsel from people who I respected. And I want to also highlight one of my incredible mentors, Kevin Hedderwick, who was the CEO of Famous Brands until he retired. I had men like him standing behind me saying to me, you are capable of anything, even if at the time I wasn't totally capable. And that's what defines us as women. Men don't question their abilities. We always question our abilities. But if you just believe in yourself, and as was said earlier, which I just love by Florence, put pity aside from purpose and you will only thrive. I'm so grateful to Florence for actually making that comment because it speaks volumes. Thanks, Carl.
Awesome, Augusta. And Florence, I see your hand. So well segued into you. You're on mute, Florence.
Oh, thank you. So I just want to add there because other speakers have also made their point. Another thing we have to do is to build emotional boundaries, and doing that will help a lot. Sometimes you could ask yourself about what is your voice? Is your voice helping you to grow? You don't really have to mind what people are saying, but you build that emotional boundaries. You surrounded yourself with affirmation because definitely it will happen. I could remember the first time that I was being awarded as a positive role model in gender mainstreaming Africa. I posted it, and some friends were like, "Oh, Florence, so now you're now fighting about gender equality and all that." But because I know what I was doing, I pretty knew what I was doing. And then I did not allow that emotion to weigh me down. But rather, first of all, I started building what it's called emotional boundaries and setting that, knowing what to respond and what not to respond. So please know your voice. And when you know your voice, you'll be able to make your stand anytime, any day, no matter what anyone will say. And mind you, just know that when you are starting something, you're trying to shape your own vision. People will talk to bring you down. And I want you to know that as you are struggling by yourself, people will not clap for you. It's when you have made it to the top, that is when people will start to celebrate you. But as it is now, you will be on your own. No one will be there. Even your family members, your best friends, they will not be there for you. So know your voice and make your stand.
Beatrice, do you perhaps have anything to add to that?
Yes, I do. And I like the
Awesome.
conversation. I like the conversation. What I will say from a HR perspective is if it's not been done before, be the first to do it. Most of the people will challenge something because it's not been done before. I work in construction industry, lots of male engineers, male dominated industry. And of course, there are some positions that had never been held by women before. We had to break that. We don't even call it the glass ceiling. We call it the concrete ceiling, and put women in those positions with facts, making sure that you're putting a very good role model. Because what I've come to realize is that the mistakes of women are remembered longer and for a long generation. In case you put somebody who's not qualified and they make a mistake in that role, then it will be told for generations. Unfortunately, that's not the same case with men. Their mistakes are remembered for a shorter period of time, and it will be blamed on other things, other their competencies. So make sure you take the opportunity. If a woman has never worked in that position, make sure she's qualified, make sure she's competent, give her the support that she needs, the mentoring, the work environment, and I can tell you, she's going to do an excellent job, and that breaks that ceiling for every other woman that is going to come down that route and for a long time. At some point, we had to make conscious decision and put women in some roles with facts and share the data and celebrate them and make sure they have sponsors so that the resistance will be there. But after a while, because nobody argues with results, once the results starts coming in, it doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman who is doing it. Once innovation starts coming in, it doesn't matter who gave the solution. Then people forget gender. So make sure you're putting qualified women, put them up there, let them be the first to do it, back it up, blow their trumpet, make sure you're discussing and talking about the achievements and sharing the data of achievements along. After a while, it is no longer a ceiling, and they've created the way for every other woman that is going to come. And to the women who are here, when you've given that opportunity, please do your very best, shine, because you know you're doing it not just for yourself. Just like our grandmothers did it for us, you're doing it for another woman. So that's what I'd like to say.
That is such amazing advice, Beatrice. Thanks so much. Florence, there's a question in the chat that says, Florence, how did you maintain a positive mindset during your difficult upbringing? Florence, you there? Okay, you're on mute.
Yeah,
there we go. Okay.
Okay. So it wasn't easy. Florence, that is Florence now, was not like this. I'm a very, very emotional person. I tend to cry and everything. And people were like kind of using that to take advantage of me. So I cried, and I cried. But yes, when you accept what is happening to you, for example, you know that, okay, this is exactly what you are passing through, then you accept it, you are aware of it. Then when you are aware of it, being aware of it means that you know this is happening to you. Then when you are aware of it, you need to accept the situation. You don't have to run away from it. You know that this is who you are. This is what is happening to you. And then when you now know what is happening to you, all you need to do is to reprogram yourself by working yourself and trying to work out from that situation. So that's just what I did. I knew that I was in a mess. No mother, no father, no relatives, nobody. But yes, I did not allow that to weigh me down. Even when people were like kind of trying to pity me, I would say to myself, no, I don't have to be, but rather I have a vision, and my vision is to become who I want to. Yes, I want to become a renowned holistic health and wellness coach, not only in Nigeria. And that is what I'm working on. I tell you that you have what you want. Everybody have what he or she wants, except you don't want that. But provided you have put in your mindset that this is what you want and you work toward it, my darling, there is no how you will not be able to get it. So what you need to do is for you to know what is wrong with you, what you want, and then you work it down, break it down. Do not just make it to be overwhelmed. Start small. When you start small, you'll be able to do what? To finish it. So do it small, and as you do it small, you'll be able to do what? To get it home. That's just what I have to say. Don't know if I've answered that question.
Awesome. Thanks, Florence. Okay, there's another question for everyone. How important is allyship in the journey for gender inclusion? Did you have any ally sponsors in your journey?
Maybe, okay.
Go for it, Augusta.
Thanks, Carl. Yes, and incidentally, they were all men. I chose them wisely, and I chose them because of the people that they were. Sadly, no female sponsors. It was during a time, especially in the first 20 years of my career, when it was extremely cutthroat. More recently, in the past 10 years, great support from women across many industries, some of whom are on this call with us all today. And I must say it's always made all the difference. And I can also say that Carl has been one of them. So Carl, a special thank you from me to you for the incredible journey that I've had with you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Augusta. Thanks for that. Mashudu, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Colleen. I responded on the chat box, but yes, it is very important to have an ally, because those are the people who actually speak for you in the rooms where you are unable to access. And I must say that this is one of the strategy which I use myself when I get into the new organization, because I jump buildings. I don't only move the career up. So when I jump to the new building, the first thing which I do, I position myself, and then I start looking for the correct allies, correct coaches within the organization. And that obviously having your own mentors and coach is important, but then it's very important that within the organization you identify the most important people who will be able to speak on your behalf when you're not in that table and you're not in that room. Thank you.
Beatrice, you there? Do you have anything to add?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Awesome.
The quote that comes to mind is, "It takes a village to raise a child." That's an African proverb. So yes, if you need to move forward in your career, you will need that village to support you. If you remember in my story, when we began gender mainstreaming in the company that I worked in, for 2 years, I was just going round in circles until I sought help. Help is very, very important, either from organizations or from people in power who you have to pick together as allyship to come and support you, put the infrastructure that you need to put in place, put the policies that the company needs to work in, and also to challenge you on some of the ideas that you have. So yes, allyship and support, very, very important.
Thank you. Thank you, Beatrice. Florence, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I just want to say that allyship is not about being the hero. It's about showing up, standing behind, and helping others rise. Yes, if you have this, yes, that means that you are fortunate enough, because there are some that may not even have allyship. I want to take that off for my own. When I started, I did not have anybody to stand or to stand by me. Nobody was there. But yes, it depends on how you'll be able to work things out, and then you see people coming out. Those that have passion in what you do will come out to either to sponsor, to help you, to stand with you. So that is just what I want to know. But when, as you are starting, know that you'll be all alone. No one will be there to support you. But with time, you will be able to get these ones, and they will be there to support you.
That is so true, Florence. And are there any other questions from anybody on the line for the speakers? Any other comments? Just biggest hugs for everybody. Anybody else got any other questions? Okay, fantastic. I think we've run out of questions for the day. Just to Beatrice, Dr. Augusta, Elizabeth, Florence and Mashudu, thank you, ladies, so much for inspiring us with your stories, being online, answering the questions. It's been absolutely amazing spending this time with you all. Thank you for being the positive role models and the inclusive leaders across Africa. We couldn't do what we do without you all. So thank you so much to everyone that joined us online. Thank you so much. It really makes it special when we put these on and people join to ask questions, to listen, to learn, and to grow. So the next session is on the 11th of September. It's from 12:30 till 2 o'clock. And put that in your diary. We'll have it again with some other speakers. And yeah, we'll have the most awesome day. And as somebody said earlier on, happy Women's Month. And have a superb day. Thanks for being online with us. Okay, bye-bye now.